Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite game mechanism in Eminent Domain from Tasty Minstrel Games and Seth Jaffe. This is an older game that I played for the first time at Geekway to the West recently, and I was blown away by the innovation in this game, especially given that it came out like 6 years ago, I think. It's an incredible deck building game. So many interesting choices, and so many smart choices that, like, these are things that you would expect to show up now after deck building has been around for so long, but it showed up like 7 years ago. I'll go through some things that I really like about it real quick, and then I'll get to my favorite mechanism. I really like the variety of planets and technologies in this game. So there's a big deck of planets that you draw randomly from, and if you want, you can, I believe the term is develop the planet or conquer it. I think you have the choice there, which I really like that too. That you have the choice to access the planets in two different ways, and then you get an ongoing benefit. So I like there's a big deck of random planets that you can bring out. There's also 4 decks of different technologies, and they aren't random draws. Rather, at any time, you can look through this deck of technologies or any of the decks and find some that you are eligible to buy or some that you're close to being eligible to buy, and you can prepare for them. You can get ready to make those technologies. They're actually shown right here, some of these decks. So I really like that there's 2 different methods of a random draw to keep up variability in the game and to have full access to all technologies. That seems like a good thematic choice. And the game encourages you to look through that deck at any time, so you're not like waiting until you get to your turn to look through that deck, which would really slow down the game. I also really like, this was almost my favorite mechanism. It's really close, but on each of your cards, the cards that you start out with are the core mechanisms of a deck building game, plus some things that are unique to this game. But a big example of that is the ability to trash a card or trash more than one card. That's built into your core cards of your deck. I really, really like that. So it's not that in some games you can trash cards and some games you can't, or some games you can draw a bunch of cards and some you can't. You always have those options on your core card abilities that you have in your deck. I really like that. All that said, my favorite mechanism in the game is related to the follow mechanism. And it's not the follow mechanism itself, which is very clever. In this game, basically, when it's someone else's turn, or on any given turn, you are taking an action and you are selecting a role. So you can't really see it in the photo here, but there are these core roles in the middle of the deck. And when you select a role, you gain a card from that role. And then you take the role itself. You make a choice regarding it. Like, for example, on colonize, the role is that you colonize, but you also get +1 colony per colonize icon that you see in your hand and on that card that you select. But after that, here's the real big thing. After that, after you select it, every other player gets the chance to also select that role or gain that role's benefit. And the strength of that benefit depends on the cards in their hand at that time. And this is the thing that I really, really like about Eminent Domain. This is my favorite mechanism because it gives meaning to the cards in your hand when it's not your turn. And it also gives meaning to the cards that you decide to keep in your hand. Because at the end of any turn of Eminent Domain, typically, like on your turn when you take an action, you are playing one card and then you're doing the roll on your turn. And then you are deciding which of these cards that you want to keep in your hand and which cards that you want to discard and draw back up to 5 cards. And so that choice becomes really interesting because you are essentially deciding on all these other turns that are going to happen when it's not my turn, which cards do I want in my hand so that I can have the most powerful follow benefit when someone else takes that roll action. Because you want to maximize that. You want to be able to maximize that. There's a little bit of randomness. You don't have perfect information because you're drawing from a deck, but you do know what's currently in your hand. So for example, in my hand right now, I might decide to survey on my turn and keep these colonized cards in my hand in the hopes that another player will choose the colonized role so that I get a huge benefit when it's not my turn. It made me feel engaged throughout the game when it wasn't my turn, when it was my turn, and it gave me a really interesting choice about the cards that are left in your hand. So rather than have those cards be meaningless, they had a really important meaning, the cards that you decided to leave in your hand when it's not your turn. I thought that was really, really clever, really brilliant in Eminent Domain. So if this reminds you of another mechanism, perhaps in a bag building or deck building game, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Or if you have a different favorite mechanism in Eminent Domain, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that as well. Thanks.